On this week's Flames Central, let the March Madness begin. The Flames are ASUN champs for a third time. Plus, Liberty Women's Cross Country is making history.
And we feature two Lady Flame athletes who open up about their powerful stories. It's all happening now. This is Flames Central.
The Flames have their dancing shoes on again. That was not your cue to do that. Welcome to Flames Central. So glad you've chosen to join us this week. She's Emily Austin. I'm Matt Warner, and we have a great show for you today.
We sure do. A couple of powerful personal stories coming up a little bit later in the show, but we have to lead off with Flames basketball and what's becoming an annual tradition.
Yeah, not one, not two, but 3 straight trips to the NCAA tournament for the Liberty basketball program. The Flames already knew they had their ticket punched before playing in the ASUN championship game due to the fact that North Alabama was still in the D1 transition, but that didn't stop LU from wanting to cut down those nets. The Flames and Lions meeting for the 3rd time this year. Liberty won the previous 2. Now early on, the Flames looked like they were going to cruise. They jumped out to a 20-9 lead. They would keep the Lions at arm's length for the entire first half, taking a 41-31 lead to the break. But in the second half, North Alabama made their run. The Lions' defensive pressure forced some turnovers, and a Mervyn James 3 with under 5 minutes to play put the Lions on top 70-69. But that lead would be short-lived. ASUN Player of the Year Darius McGee would answer quickly and effectively, helping put Liberty back on top. McGee finished with the team-high 21. Kyle Rode would then put the final nail in the coffin with a minute to play as Liberty goes on to win it. 79-75, the Flames' 3rd straight ASUN tournament title. They cut down the nets once again.
I think it was huge to grab this win. Like, even though we had the automatic bid, guys stayed motivated, guys stayed locked in, and we stayed disciplined to just the moment itself. Regardless of us having a bid or not, it was still the ASUN championship game, so we still wanted to come out here and play at a high level and do what we do and accomplish the goal and win the game.
It's a blessing to be able to advance to the tournament. It's really hard to do. So I know the guys in that locker room, I know they are very appreciative of this opportunity and very thankful for the people they get to do this with.
Super grateful. God has blessed me to play with these guys, a program like this in the university. So we're going to hopefully make them proud in a couple weeks and see where it takes us.
So ready for some March Madness. The Flames will find out their first round opponent on Selection Sunday. So we thought the timing was right to invite the ASUN Player of the Year on the latest Flames Central podcast. Hey, Darius, remind me the quote you guys use when you're facing adversity in a game.
Usually on the other side of hard is what you want. So, and I can say in all of those stretches, even the Bellarmine game, like when teams are on their run in the timeout, somebody has said that or quoted that. So it kind of just reassures us that, like, this is the moment that we wanted. Like, we didn't come here because we wanted the easiest route.
Usually on the other side of hard is what you want. Did you write that down, Matt Warner? What a quote.
On my arm, yeah.
For more exclusive interviews and Liberty Athletics content, be sure to download the Flames Central podcast. You can find it on Apple, Spotify, basically wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, we are there.
Please check it out. Great content. Well, Liberty Women's Basketball is also playing this weekend in the ASUN tournament. The Lady Flames earned the 2 seed, and a big part of their success this season was the emergence of junior forward Maya Berkman. Known as Maya McMillan the past 2 seasons, her name change highlights the challenging road that this young lady has traveled.
Baker driving with the left, no good. Berkman controls the rebound, goes back up with it, and 1. When you see Maya Berkman on the court, a dominant force in the paint, and a season that has her on the cusp of setting a program record, it's hard to fathom that her childhood was as painful as it was.
I was basically CPS, Child Protective Services, was in my life the entire time. And my mom would finesse her way to not having us taken away.
While Maya was still at a young age, her mother would remarry. But shortly after the wedding, her stepdad would begin an abusive pattern towards her mother.
When I was young, I just didn't understand. Sometimes I would blame my mom, what are you doing? Why are you making him change like this? This doesn't make sense. He was fine before.
The abuse would take its toll, leading her mom down a dark path.
No one deserves to be abused at all. Throughout her experience, she became abusive to alcohol, pills, painkillers. So it was just really hard to see her just go from being this independent woman who like didn't need anyone to someone who depends on everyone, and like even her own children had to take care of her at times.
Not only would Maya have to care for her mother, but also her younger sister, Aaliyah.
I basically raised her when she was young because my mom would go all over the place and do drugs and stuff, so sometimes I even had to stay home from school.
Her mother's actions finally had Aaliyah taken away.
Police like storm in and like just take her. It was like really, really heartbreaking. And the fact that I just didn't know what was happening, because they like wouldn't answer any questions and everything. So it was just really, it was a really hard experience just because that's how it happened. It was like she literally, 1 second was there and then she just left.
Maya would continue to navigate her way through trial after trial, until one afternoon in high school, Child Protective Services had made up their mind.
I was coming back from practice, and then my phone was blowing up like, Maya, you can't go home, don't go home. And I was just so confused. I was like, okay, and I was trying to read the messages before more popped up. And then I realized that CPS was called, and they finally like had enough to take us away.
Which led to a phone call with Maya's high school basketball coach, John Berkman, who faced a decision, along with his wife, they never expected.
The CPS office had called me and said, hey, we understand that the sisters want to stay together, but we don't have anybody in the area that would be willing to take both of them at the same time. I remember them asking, would you and your wife maybe consider that? And I remember being taken aback because I was driving in my truck, I think, when they called, but I remember thinking, well, that's not something we've ever discussed. So I told them I would have to discuss that with my wife. I remember thinking, who else would take them? And that was heavy on my heart, and I know it was heavy on her heart. And I know that a lot of that had to do with the Lord preparing us.
The Lord would lead them to take in Aaliyah and Maya, which would be a huge change to the way Maya was used to living.
It was just a different experience because they have so many rules. They have so like families should, like they have curfew, and you plug your phone up at night in the kitchen.
Despite the fact she was in a stable environment, it still took quite some time for her to feel at home with the Berkmans.
And it was well into the next year before she fully felt like, okay, this is like a permanent thing, and they're not kicking me out, or they're not moving on.
We wanted Maya to be in the driver's seat with all those decisions. And I think for her, it was kind of like, I'm cautious, be cautious in the waters here.
Finally, she would feel at peace, especially with John on the basketball court.
There was a change that next year in basketball. It was no longer coach, it was dad.
He would just answer and respond, and I'd be like, Dad, who am I guarding? He'll just be like, 32. I was like, okay, thanks. I loved it.
Maya finally had what she longed for, a stable home environment with her little sister. This past summer, Maya made the decision to take on her new family's last name, legally becoming a Berkman, a gesture of the deep love she has for her family.
They saved my life. Yeah, like I don't think I would be here right now. I love them forever for it.
Matt, one of the reasons why I love this story is that it's a pure example of how God is bigger and in control and always good. No matter how much she was struggling in pain, he knew that there was a bigger story for her. And what a family, the Berkmans taking her and her little sister in.
Yeah, think about the impact that they made on these kids' lives, on Maya's life, completely changing the trajectory of her life, and who knows what can happen in the future because they were willing to bring them in. So powerful. Thanks to Rhett McGibbon for producing that piece.
And I'm sure that the Berkmans are very happy to see Maya and all of her success here at Liberty. All right, well, checking in with women's cross country, the Lady Flames, Matt, are making some serious history. Awesome celebration there. Here's a look at Coach Lance being on cell phone video when Liberty was selected for the first time ever to compete as a team in the NCAA Division I Cross Country Championships. The celebration comes just 2 days after the program won its first ever ASUN title. Liberty will line up for the 6K championship race on March 15th in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
All right, to baseball now. On Tuesday night, the Flames took their 4-game win streak down to Chapel Hill, North Carolina. The Flames playing number 18 UNC. In the fourth inning, a Will Wagner single drove in Gray Betts to put Liberty on top 4-3. And then 2 batters later, Logan Matthew delivered the big blow. A 3-run home run to put the Flames up 7-3. From there, LU would fight to hang on to that lead. 6 different pitchers appeared for Liberty, with Landon Riley securing the final out as Liberty knocks off top 25 North Carolina 8-7, the 5th straight win for the Flames as they improve their record on the year to 7-5.
Hey, Matt, let's stay in the diamond. Lady Flames softball hosted Longwood for a doubleheader on Tuesday. All the action happens in the 6th, okay? 4-0 Liberty lead. Base is loaded for Madison Vi, and she said, let's just get the next game started. Her grand slam ends the game with an 8-0 run rule victory. Pitcher Carly Keeney tossed her first career shutout and tied her career high with 7 strikeouts. And then in game 2, well, she got it done with her bat to get Liberty on the board first. To the 3rd, though, Amber Bishop-Riley takes this one for a ride. That's her 8th on the season. LU completes the sweep with a 7-2 win over Longwood.
How about that Liberty field hockey program? They swept Old Dominion last week to move their record to 7-0, the best start in program history, with 6 of those wins coming against Big East opponents. Jill Bolton has been a key component for this Lady Flame squad. She had 3 goals, 2 assists in the pair of games against ODU. Those contributions earned her the Big East Offensive Player of the Week award, as well as the National Field Hockey Coaches Association Division I Offensive Player of the Week award. That's a lot of words. Her 2nd time this season to claim that award. All right, coming up next, Liberty swimmer Kaya Francis shares her personal story of bravery and finding her true identity.
Plus, a former Flame signs with the pros, and Brett joins us for Warm, Hot, and Fuego. Don't go anywhere.
In 1776, one of the most important documents in our nation's history was penned by one of Virginia's most famous residents. Throughout the next 200 years, the importance of Central Virginia was deeply woven into the tapestry of our nation's history. Liberty University is blessed to be built upon these same historic grounds, furthering the Christian tradition of our founding fathers and training young men and women of character and of calling. At Liberty, you're welcomed into a community rich with history, and we invite you to explore our campus in Central Virginia to discover more than just the surface level. Building upon the tapestry of history, we strive for greatness, humble to be at the heart of where the country began.
Welcome to Liberty University's online programs, where living out your calling with integrity is what you train to do, and getting ready for the future doesn't mean missing out on the now. Because a university is more than buildings and books, and an education should set you free, not fence you in. Welcome to Liberty's global campus, where distance learning was pioneered and evolved into one of the top-ranked schools in the nation, where protecting your budget, your time, and your education isn't just a theory, it's our priority. Here, degrees in your field reflect industry demands and help get you ahead of the competition. Where college comes to you, but you can come to college too. Game day, homecoming, graduation day, your school, your values, your experience, your choice. Welcome to Liberty University, where we train champions for Christ.
Welcome back to Flame Central. Our next story is one that takes bravery, vulnerability, and courage to share. Lady Flame swimmer 𝘀𝗿𝗵𝗵𝗵 Francis incorporates all of that and more as she dives into how she found her true identity in a supportive community right here at Liberty.
I never thought that I would be talking about this. It was such a shame-filled time for me, and the thought of telling somebody else that I was struggling with eating, or that I would come home and binge to deal with my problems and my stress, was so shameful to me. But now that I am learning so much about how a lot of other women struggle with the same thing. I just really enjoyed having something to work towards. Growing up, that was kind of like something that I put a lot of my identity in. Even though I was homeschooled, I still had the opportunity to be a part of that team dynamic, and it was really big in helping me understand the whole concept of college swimming, where it's like something bigger than yourself and it's team first. I wanted to be on a team that was accepting, loving, and encouraging and supportive, and after I considered all my options, Liberty was the one that I felt I would succeed the most at. I had a really awesome freshman conference. I dropped a ton of time. I do remember thinking at one of the finals of that is that this pressure is so much. This is a lot to take in. I think I remember joking with a teammate like, oh, I'm getting too old for this. And they said, you're a freshman. But I loved it, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. But I do remember the pressure being a lot, even in the moment, even when things were good. Internally, I was having a really rough time, and I just could tell that something was off. I had set some really lofty goals out for myself, and it was kind of a all or nothing, like, you will not fail. I was coming off having all this feeling, all this support and love and everything that Liberty swimming and diving is. And then I started to think, well, maybe I just don't fit in very well with this team, and maybe I'm just doing something wrong, or maybe I'm not good enough or worthy to be here. It wasn't anything anybody had said to me, it was just me being very unhappy with who I was, and I was not finding my identity in Christ. And one of those was just body changes, and how when you start lifting, you gain more muscle and you eat like so much more than I started eating so much more than I ever did in high school because I needed to fuel my body. I was swimming so much more. But I saw that as a really big problem. I can't have this mentality that I can eat whatever I want. Like, I have to start restricting. I was putting a lot of my worth in what I looked like. And what I looked like, my brain had decided that that's why I wasn't doing as well in the pool. I really felt isolated and lonely, and I did it to myself. I just wasn't surrendering anything in my life to God. So I was depressed, miserable. I did not enjoy coming to practices. My teammates would play music in the locker room, and I remember getting angry at that. I would feel all this frustration, and I had no patience. I had no joy. I would just stay up late just to have time to stare at the ceiling because I didn't want to begin my next day. I didn't want to go through life and just face each day. I didn't feel like I had any purpose. There was this one meet that we had where I just had this complete anxiety attack. I just couldn't stop the tears at all that day, and I remember feeling so vulnerable in that moment because my teammates saw me crying.
Yeah, I remember that moment pretty vividly. It's an emotional moment for me. I remember one of her teammates coming over after the meet ended and saying, I don't think 𝘀𝗿𝗵𝗵𝗵's doing okay. I think you need to go over and talk with her.
So I was really scared that day, but Coach Jessica came up and said, 𝘀𝗿𝗵𝗵𝗵, it hurts me to see you like this. We need to figure this out. Let me help you.
She just started sobbing, and she just started crying, and she said, I don't know what's going on. I don't know these feelings that I have. It was a moment where she was just able to finally just let it all out and let her walls down and just share her emotions, and in the pain and in the suffering. It taught me a lot about who Kaya was, because as I was sitting there crying, Kaya reached over and said, "It's gonna be okay." And that's just who Kaya is. She has such a heart for people, and it was in that moment that I realized that she needed those people for her, and she needed to know that we were there for her in some of her darkest moments.
To receive that love from her was just amazing, and it was really eye-opening, and I realized that my team had always been there, but I wasn't receiving their love, and I didn't know how to communicate what I was feeling.
After that moment on the pool deck, we met every single week in my office. We would just sit on the floor and we would just talk, and she would just share where she was, and I would just ask her just to be honest and just to share her heart, and then we would just pray about it.
It was over time that I surrendered to God in a lot of areas. It was kind of bit by bit. It was definitely not an overnight thing, but I started to experience more joy and wouldn't become so anxious about certain things. When we are shattered and at our most broken, that is when God's love shows through. So I began to kind of embrace those parts of me that were not perfect.
I've just watched that growth in her spiritually to a place where she has just owned her relationship with the Lord.
It's really a privilege that He has chosen me to walk through something like that, because He knows that I will see the other side. Like, He will lead me through to the other side, and His glory will be shown through that. I am complete in Him. It's like I need not worry because He's looking out for me. So I just found a lot of peace in that, and I just think a year and a half ago I would have never thought to have that. It was just this invisible, He was an invisible entity that I would pray to, but now I can actually experience God's love and peace in my life every single day.
That was just a powerful story. Our thanks to Kaya for being brave enough to share that part of her life. And also our thanks to 𝘀𝗁𝗿𝗵𝗵 for producing that fantastic piece. All right, we move now into Warm, Hot, and Fuego, top moment player from the past week.
Yep.
And I'm told you have a unique theme, as you usually do.
Yeah, National Chip Day this past week, and this is how I feel.
Yeah.
If you don't like chips, don't watch this show. I love chips.
Well, yeah, chip lovers are kind of our target demo.
Yeah,
that's
we
what we're
focus
going
in.
for. So yeah,
exactly.
So let's start with warm.
Let's do
you have
warm.
a chip and you have an athlete.
Yeah, all dressed chip.
Those are fantastic.
They are.
The vinegar flavor, you get a little bite to them.
A little barbecue in there as well. Yeah, it's just a mixed bag. As you
Mixed
munch
bag.
through it.
It's really not. It's just all one kind.
Yeah,
so,
but
I know what you mean. Get to the athlete.
Yeah,
Who is it?
Madison Vi, 5'12" athlete, mixed bag when it comes to everything in the arsenal. She can bunt, hit for contact, hit for power, which we see right here. Grand slam, walk-off finish over the wall. Flames have just been chipping away.
I see what you're doing, chipping.
Yeah, just knocking and run here and there. She said, let's end this thing. And in a season so far where the batting average maybe not as high as she would like, it's good to see her get that grand slam, and her bat came to life really this past weekend and in that game specifically.
Sometimes she lays down a bunt. Get it? See what I'm doing?
Well
That's
done.
right. All right, for warm, we go to hot. Who's your chip and who's your athlete?
𝘀𝗁𝗵𝗵, he is a ketchup chip. Good Canadian guy. He's doing great so far this season.
Right. That is a Canadian thing,
It
right?
is. It really is. Third time this year, he's been named ASUN Player of the Week in men's tennis, and he's just been great. 4-0. He knocked off in singles play number 34, South Florida, their leadoff guy. So he's just been going. And this is a men's tennis team that is quietly having a great season. He is leading them. They're 8-5 as it stands right now. Conference play starting up next week. So this is a men's group to watch out for.
Can't get behind the ketchup chips. Am a big fan of 𝘀𝗁𝗵𝗵
Yes.
though, however. All right, finally, in Fuego, your athlete and your top chip.
All right, it's a team. Men's basketball, just the
entire
entire program.
They just won a chip.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. You could say that. Flamin' Hot Doritos, because they are just on fire right now.
I see.
They
Yeah,
are
that
so
makes
good.
sense.
I want to go down a little history lesson here,
Tell
okay? In 2014-15, they went 9-23. That was the last year of the previous head coach. Richie McKay comes in, the program as a whole, they go 13-19 that year. Yes, they did play some non-D1 opponents. We get that, okay? Then you move on to the season after that, 16-17. They go to the third round of the CIT. So huge jump. You've got a lot more wins. The next year, you do exactly the same thing. Third round once again, and then you go 3 years ago, your first ASUN championship against Lipscomb, and you continue to do that for the next 3 years. The amount of time it took for this team to go from probably one of the
worst teams in the country.
Yeah, exactly. To one of the better teams in the nation. Oh, it's
build that Richie McKay statue.
Yes,
is what we're saying.
do it.
Put a chip in his hand. All right, thanks, Rhett. Coming up, we'll tell you which former Flame just signed his first pro basketball deal. Stay with us, Flame Central. Coming right back.
At Liberty University, we don't just believe everyone should have access to higher education, we make it happen. That's why we are offering our Middle America Scholarship to help families like yours by providing over $20,000 over the course of 4 years. Money should not hold you back from the life-changing experience at Liberty University. Find out if you qualify for the Middle America Scholarship today.
Times are changing. At Liberty, we've made it our priority to grow, to learn, to improve. But even with all the change, our purpose remains. We want to equip people to go make a difference through their calling in their communities around the world. And though we are blessed with an amazing campus, our most valuable resource has always been the people, our students, and those who inspire them. It's the people who serve, maintain, support. It's you.
What's really important? Not the buildings, not the mountain, not the property, but the young people who use these buildings, who study in these facilities. They are important.
No matter what the future holds, we will stay focused on our goal. And the people of Liberty University are how we will continue to carry out our mission. They are the ones who empower us to
Training champions for Christ.
Champions for Christ.
Training champions for Christ.
Welcome back to the show. Emily, you remember fan favorite Mayo Baxter-Bell? Do you remember him?
How can we
of
forget
course. Well,
him?
the former Flame is heading to the pros.
That's right. The power forward signed his first professional basketball contract with San Isidro in the Argentina Basketball League. Mayo said it's been a long process, but Matt, he's excited to see everything finally paying off, and he can't wait to get started. Baxter-Bell is the fourth departing senior from the last season's team to sign a pro contract. You know, 𝘀𝘁𝗿𝗵𝗵𝗵, Scotty James, 𝘀𝘁𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵, Pacheco, all playing pro ball. So really good to see the success of that basketball program.
Absolutely. Hey, we're out of time for this week. She's Emily, I'm Matt. We'll see you right back here at Flame Central next time.